Hey guys, it's Willow coming to you from the woods. This video is gonna be about sort of things I wish I knew before I started seasonal work. I do seasonal work full time now for about, well, almost 2 years. Mainly I've worked in Yellowstone National Park and some ski resorts. That's where I'm working now, ski resort. But I do wish I knew quite a few things before because I kind of jumped into it. So the first I would say is the housing situation. Now, I was lucky in Yellowstone. They have relatively nice housing, at least in my opinion. The main thing for me, I feel like most people don't like having roommates, and the fewer the better. But Yellowstone is nice. It's only 2 people per room, at least where I was, and you have your own bathroom, things like that. I have stayed, like the last ski resort I worked at last winter, it was 4 people to a room, still your own bathroom, but I gotta say, unless you're like very extroverted, which I'm not, 4 people to a room is a very, very unpleasant situation to be in. And I have heard of places that have, up to 6 people per room, which is a lot. Unless you're used to having a lot of people in your room for some reason, I think that would be pretty unpleasant. So for me, kind of a general rule that I have implemented after last winter's experience is only 2 people per room. Minimum. Check out this river. All right. Yeah. So really, I can only have one roommate to really be happy for a season. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just not great for me. But so housing, do a lot of research on your housing, just determine what's acceptable for you and what's not. And also the price of housing. I was pretty lucky in Yellowstone. It's, I would say, pretty affordable. And it's taken out of your paycheck, so you don't have to worry about paying rent or anything. But some places are different. Some places you do have to go to a specific website to pay rent. Sometimes it's per week or per month or bi-weekly, so you do have to keep that in mind. And housing is important. You're going to be living there for several months at a time. And then also the bathroom situation. Some are communal, some are Jack and Jill, some are just singular. So it is, important to consider that as well. Then the next thing to consider is kind of the food situation. Some places have employee meal plans, some places do not. And that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. For example, an employee meal plan is nice to have. Usually it's a pretty, very, very, very cheap. Very cheap. Sometimes it's included, taken out of your paycheck with housing, and then sometimes you just have to pay for individual meals. So, depending on where you are. And other times, there is no meal plan. Here's another river. There it is. And not having a meal plan is nice because you can make whatever you want, really, but on the flip side, you have to make your own food all the time, which, depending on where you are, groceries can be very expensive. And then it's meal planning. At least for me, it's kind of a pain. But, some people like cooking their own food and stuff like that. So it depends from person to person. And the third thing to consider for seasonal work, I would say, is remoteness and like transportation. There are some places that are very, very remote and are very difficult to enjoy without a car unless you make friends with cars very quickly. For example, in Yellowstone, there's no public transportation. So if you don't have friends with cars, it would be very difficult to see the park. You can take a tour. They have a lot of tours out there, and employees can get on them for free if there's space. But otherwise, like, it's kind of like you can't just like jump in your car and go, you know, where you want. Which Yellowstone's a big, you know, beautiful place, so it does help a lot to have a car. But I was there for 2 seasons with no car, so, you know, you can still enjoy it. But there are places that I would say are way more remote than Yellowstone, like, for example, like Big Bend National Park, which is like 3 hours from anything. So you would most definitely want a car in a place like that, or you would probably get a little stir crazy, you know. And then there's other places that are not remote at all, and do have public transportation, and that's usually not national parks. There are a few, like Acadia National Park or Grand Canyon, where they have their own shuttle and everything going on. So it does depend. But so that is, like, if you don't have a car, definitely consider your options there, because you don't want to be stuck for, you know, 5 months at a time. Because you do want to, you know, get out there and explore and see things, because otherwise what's the point? Like, why are you there? You could just be back home in your usual job, you know, wherever you come from. But yeah, and then fourth thing to consider, how much are you getting paid? Is it worth it? You know, there are a lot of beautiful places that would be really cool to work at, and then, you know, you scroll down and you see they pay $12 an hour, $11, $10 an hour. It's like, is it worth it really to be there? For some people, yes. For some people, no. I personally don't really work in a place for less than, you know, like around 17 per hour. It's just not worth it for me. Unless I'm like really desperate or just need like anything. Like, especially for winter, it's much harder to find good seasonal jobs for the winter. So, you know, it depends on your level of desperation, a lot of the time. But and then, like, you'll find a lot of places like ski resorts, or resorts in general, do pay quite a lot compared to other seasonal jobs elsewhere. So like ski resorts, you could easily make $20 per hour or more, and then other places, you know, 15, 14. And then you do have to consider, again, like, for example, if you were making 15, it might still be worth it if your housing and meals are included, or at a very cheap price, compared to, you know, maybe you're making $20 an hour but your housing's super expensive. So it would depend on that as well. And again, I mean, everything's so subjective. Like, some people will go anywhere, do anything, and then some people are more picky. I'm a little more picky, not super picky, but you know, it just depends on what you're looking for there. And then the last point I kind of want to make is more vast, more general. Is like, if you plan on doing seasonal work, what's your plan? Do you plan on doing seasonal work for a long time, or just for one season? Some people make it like a full-time thing, like I do, and then you start to wonder about benefits, you know, like, because if you're doing one season, you're not going to get a 401k and a health insurance and all that, most likely. So you do have to consider, you know, are you willing to go without benefits, you know, health insurance, depending on how old you are, you know, but things like that. Some people are really like, you know, they will, especially at like the last ski resort I worked at, people will stay there just so they have health insurance, You know, which makes sense, but I personally don't think it's worth it to stay in a place that you don't really like, because that was the case for them. You don't really like just for the benefits, but you know, it depends. And you know, retirement sort of stuff, 401k matching. A lot of places, if you do stay with them for more than one season, they will give you benefits. But for a single season, usually not. I've never seen a place where they do give you benefits for only one season, which makes sense because, you know, you're only there for 5-6 months usually. So, you know, like, you could stay in a place and settle that down, sort of make that your lifestyle and get those benefits, or just do it for a season, have fun, and then go back to your normal sort of regular life. Seasonal work is definitely less stable, a little more hectic than a regular job. But for me, that doesn't bother me, because a nice thing about seasonal work is that pretty much always you get at least a month or two off between jobs, which is nice because then you can, you know, explore, travel around. Like, that's when my friend and I took the opportunity to go to Spain and hike the Camino de Santiago for like 200 miles across Spain, and also just travel around. They go to the Canary Islands, go to Paris, London, then come back. So, you know, it's definitely a very different lifestyle, not for everyone, but I really enjoy it. A lot of people really enjoy it, so to each their own, but definitely something to consider if you are at all interested in doing seasonal work. But yeah, so those are kind of the main things to consider, and that's the video here. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. Thanks for watching.